Hey there. It is Wednesday, May 10th, and running a little later than I would have liked, I guess, for my good parts with Chase Swift. But nonetheless, I have another good part. So if you're catching me maybe for the first time, obviously I'm Chase Swift, and I am doing kind of voluntarily with some other folks that are kind of on this challenge. We call it the Good Parts Challenge. And we're just kind of going live on social media to encourage others to, and actually sharing some good parts of our lives, business related things, personal related things, just really anything that helps kind of maybe raise the bar for others. And so hopefully you'll find this encouraging. And we also encourage everyone to consider maybe doing this. We could all stand to use a little more good parts in our life. And so this is an attempt to do that. So the title of today's episode, which is number 31, interesting. I think I got that right. Actually, it's number 32. I made a mistake when I pasted it in. I meant to change it to 32. So it is 32. I'll change that momentarily. Anyway, number 32. This principle has served me the best in my career. And there are a lot of principles to live by. And I have a list, actually, this kind of community that I'm working with is really wonderful. We have a manifesto, a list of principles that we really strive to achieve, and it's really powerful. Let's see here. I didn't put that in the description, but I'll get it to you shortly. So, anyway, this series of principles really does serve you well. It's important, and you figure this out later in life sometimes, but it's important to live by principles. So, without further ado, let me share my screen because of a nice story to share and how these principles have served me. So, let's make sure that works. So, here we go. You should be seeing the Freedom Crusaders Manifesto. This is a mission, so to speak, that along with other people in the Home Business Academy, we strive to follow these principles. And I won't go through all of it, but anything that's bolded is a principle. And I'm going to come down here and I've highlighted this one principle, and it says, "I know that the long cut is the really on, is only the. I'm sorry. I know that the long cut is the only real shortcut, and commit to putting in the time, gaining the knowledge, and doing the work required to earn my just reward." So what that means is sometimes there are no shortcuts. It's a long cut. So I'm going to go to show you a photograph, and let me make this full screen so it shows a little nicer there. This is a result of a lot of time and energy and a lot of there's a bit of luck to some degree, but I've always wanted. I love photography, and I went to Brooks Institute of Photography. Actually, I was trying to be. I'm trying to get rid of that little pop up. It keeps showing. I was trying to be. Well, I was being a freelance wildlife photographer, but that's a challenge. To be honest, I thought it was easier than it appeared to be. I mainly, the main market is like magazines, calendars, postcards, things of that nature. Those tend to be lower paying markets. The and I didn't always know that at the time. So to be honest, you take a good photograph, and sometimes, well, the market back in the mid '80s when I started, um, it was that market, and it's good. But what I later learned was, and I stayed with it. So the long cut, so to speak, is staying with it and learning more. I realized that commercial advertising was significantly more than the magazine industry, the card industry, the that type thing, the calendar industry. Comparison wise, I think one of the most I ever received for a magazine cover was probably $300, which at the time, I mean, mid '80s, '90s, things like that, not terribly bad, but we had film costs and all sorts of stuff. So it was, you don't get a whole lot. but commercially speaking, advertising for um, ads in all sorts of media can be significantly more. So I had the chance to photograph this lion. This was under controlled situations. I was not in Africa. This was actually in Northern California. And this lion is actually the MGM lion that they use for movies and all sorts of commercials. It was an expensive shoot, let me tell you. But I was very fortunate that I was with a group of other photographers. I'll make this really zoom in here because it is a pretty dramatic shot. I was just with some other photographers. We had paid for 1 day. This is actually a 3-day shoot, but we got I think, a half a day shoot with Joseph, this lion. He was a full African lion, but he'd been raised and he was pretty safe. I mean, he wouldn't maul you or anything like that, but he was still, he was still menacing and certainly looks to be that here. We went out in the morning. This is in Northern California, and the grass looked similar to what you might see in Africa. So you don't, it looks reasonable. I was photographing with a telephoto lens, so the background, and I spend so much time figuring out the backgrounds because it's really important. So that's another long cut too. I really scope things out. We were positioned well and things like that. I was on a tripod, and the trainer had kind of saved breakfast for Joseph. He hadn't fed him yet. So Joseph he wasn't starving. He wasn't being inhumanely treated. He was hungry though. So Joseph would take a fairly nice size piece of meat and take Joseph down. He had him on a leash, kind of I can't remember the leash exactly, but it was a big leash. So, and then he would get positioned, and the trainer was basically in the background, and then he would throw this piece of meat. I'm telling you, just because there are ways to get photographs, and you can't sometimes just wait and hope. Okay, so we were very seriously intent on making this photograph and hopefully getting a running lion coming at you. Well, I don't know. There was probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 throws. So, and they go fast. And we had motor drives at the time, shooting film. This is not digital. I couldn't see the results immediately. But coming at it and through the viewfinder again, the viewfinder is flicking, the mirrors coming up, and I see partially images coming through. And, it's a lot of, I didn't know exactly what I was going to get. But there was one particular time the piece of meat landed right in front of me, probably 5 or 6 feet away, something like that, maybe 10. And Joseph was running to the meat. He was running right to me. One of the most fortunate things I think I've ever had happen. I mean, when I got this image back, I knew I had an absolute winner. Um, it's been a very dramatic image. And so at one point, there was one image I know, I can't remember the advertiser actually, but they used it for, I believe it was $13,000 for an image on an ad. And this image has been used many times. I don't know exactly how many, but it's a pretty dramatic image. Joseph is as clean as they get. He's a really clean lion. He doesn't have scratches from fights with other lions like they do in Africa. He doesn't have flies in his eyes. His mane is about as perfect as can be. He's a Hollywood lion. And so it really came together well. The image is extremely dramatic. It's certainly set up for a vertical. I can go full screen. Look at that. Certainly cover potential. A lot of ads, magazines, covers of magazines are vertical, of course. So it's really well done. I could have maybe given a little more room to one of the sides, but as fast as it was happening, it was really all I could do to get the lion focused. And actually, I was using Canon equipment in I think here it was 1994, maybe 1995. The new Canon autofocus system had just come out. I switched over to Canon from Nikon specifically due to their autofocus, which was really, really good at the time. I used a 200 millimeter f1.8 lens. It's a very expensive lens. I borrowed it, got it from Canon actually. They were very gracious to give me a professional loan, and I used that lens with a 1.4 converter. So effectively about a 280 millimeter telephoto lens, which is a fairly significant telephoto lens. So I was not as close as it looks to this line, but it is dramatic. And so the point of all this, I had learned a lot over the years of really starting in photography in 1983, 84. So good 10 years probably took place before I had the ability to capture this line. Had I first been able to photograph this line in the first couple of years, I would not have gotten this shot. So it took time, it took experience, it took the right equipment, which I didn't have, and early on. So there's a lot of long cuts. There's no really shortcuts in this example, and I think that's one of the big points is there really are no shortcuts in life. Yes, there are certain things you can maybe do to shorten, work with the mentor, go to a great school, work with, in a good situation. I had all of those actually leading up to that. So very fortunate, very thankful, very humble that I was able to get this image. And he is dead on running right to me. His eyes are absolutely locked on. And that's what makes this image. I was so fortunate. It's just the one image. I think I have another frame that might be close, but I really like his paws, both up, off the ground, so to speak, and he's coming at a full run. So pretty exciting, dramatic, and successful photograph for me. So anyway, hope you enjoy this. This is just a good story. It's a good part of my life. And it just reminds me that focusing, well, literally and figuratively, focusing on learning and staying with your passion, your whatever your focus is, will help you, and you will get better. And that's just the way it is. And so I picked a career in photography that I love, and it has been, a love of mine to photograph and see nature and wildlife and beautiful landscapes all over the world. And so that's been a pleasure. Now I work online, and it's, again, it's an incredible opportunity to earn passive income and all that type of thing, uh, while enjoying the rest of the life to do things that I enjoy doing. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Let me see if I can get out of here, go out of full screen, and stop sharing for a second here. So, again, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that little tip. And let's see, we got a comment here. Well, McGill is back on. So, McGill, you're doing awesome. I am doing good. I hope you enjoyed that little story. And I appreciate you watching. That's really kind of you. And yeah, McGill is from Liberia in Kenya. So, how ironic that you tuned in right when I talked about Joseph, my lion photograph. So, anyway, thanks, McGill, for popping in. As a reminder, I do have a website so you can get on my newsletter. I recap the week on Fridays, send you out an email of all my 5 Good Parts shows. So you can either rewatch or watch ones you maybe missed. That way, you don't have to depend on the algorithms of the social media, Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. You'll get the links to all my videos. So I do that on Fridays. So you can get that newsletter on my website, chaseswift.com/good. So thanks again. Hope you're enjoying this. I will do better to get on the stick and maybe get this a little earlier tomorrow on that'll be the 33rd. So this is actually 32. So anyway, it's just a number, right? But thanks for watching. We'll see you next tomorrow for the next Good Parts with Chase Swift show. And in the meantime, have a great day, and look for the good parts in your life, and share those on social media. I think it's a good thing to do. Have a great evening. Bye for now.